Introducing a completely redesigned experience that you can sense. And that senses you. The new Dell Latitude laptops bring your work closer to you.
Tonight, we have breaking news on our hospitals. Elective surgery suspended again.
A family's grief and the young boy who tried desperately to help when tragedy struck at Seaton.
From TV personality to tourism chief. But will anyone buy Koshi's SA cell when he doesn't even live here?
The moment South Australia's farmers had been waiting for. Our dry spell finally breaks.
And Port Adelaide looking to beat the Blues on a grey night for footy.
This is Adelaide's 9 News with Kate Collins and Brenton Ragless.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news, and elective surgeries have just been cancelled. Our hospitals struggling to cope with demand even before winter begins.
The cancellations spanning across every hospital in the state, and Wilder Fulvio, every metropolitan hospital's been in code white since Sunday.
Well, Kate, code white means there hasn't been a single free bed in our Adelaide hospitals going on 5 days now. And now elective surgeries across the state have been put on hold in a desperate bid to ease at least some of the burden. Only Category 1 and paediatrics urgent Category 2 procedures will be able to go ahead. SA Health has said a huge amount of patients suffering from respiratory illnesses, including COVID, the flu and RSV, have hit the system hard. And hospital staff, of course, are not immune to the illness, which has led to a shortage of staff on the wards. I spoke to the head of the SA Doctors Union just a short time ago, and she said the situation is the worst she's seen in 15 years.
What I'm seeing on our dashboard and in our hospital system is unprecedented. Unprecedented access block, that is the inability of patients to get to beds. It is just very crowded in our hospital system at the moment.
The pause on elective surgery started today, but at this point there's no indication when it might be lifted. This is meant to be a last resort option under the winter demand strategy, Kate, and winter doesn't even start until Saturday.
Will, thank you. Police tonight say they're still trying to determine the cause of death of a 5-year-old Seaton girl after a panicked rush to hospital late yesterday. A heartbroken family member says he believes she'd suffered an asthma attack, while a teenage boy has told of his sadness after he jumped into the effort to try to save her life.
A neighbourhood in shock and a family in immense pain.
She was only a young girl and then she had a long life in front of her.
13-year-old Jabaz Stanikzee was walking home from school just after 4 yesterday when he heard a horrifying scream.
As I get closer, I see the man's holding a child, and he screamed at me to call the ambulance.
The girl cradled in the man's arms. She had turned 5 years old just last week.
I run to the telephone booth and I call the ambulance, and a bunch of ambulance and police cars come.
Emergency services rushing to Ballata Avenue. Paramedics desperately carrying out CPR all the way from Seaton to the Women's and Children's, but the girl couldn't be saved.
I really got impacted by it because I have a sister that's around the same age, you know. After I went home, I thought about it, what if that was my sister, what if that was my brother?
I've lost a child, so I already know what that sort of scream sounds like, and yes, it was horrifying to hear.
The family saying she'd suffered an asthma attack and her mother had rushed to the shops to get an inhaler. The family has told 9 News the young girl had been suffering from asthma for quite a while and believed the change in temperature could have prompted the attack.
Very large, big family, and yeah, it's very tragic.
A post-mortem will confirm the cause of death with a report to go to the coroner. Kelly Hughes, 9 News.
A high-profile national personality who lives in Sydney has been tasked with overseeing our state's Tourism Commission. David Koch says he'll bring a national perspective to the role, but his appointment has prompted questions about why a full-time South Australian wasn't picked for the job.
jetting in from New South Wales, handed the job of selling South Australia.
I was really delighted and honoured to be asked to chair the board of South Australian Tourism Commission.
A great place to visit, maybe just not to live. The Port Adelaide chairman was born in Adelaide, but doesn't have any plans to move permanently away from his scenic Sydney views.
My businesses are based in the eastern states, and my family is there. So Lib and I have been looking at buying a place here, an apartment, so we can have a home base.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird that he doesn't live in SA, that he's not living here, but being the head of it.
I suppose it would be nice to have someone embedded in SA, living in SA, part of the community in SA as well.
He doesn't live here, and as a South Australian, I think it'd be nice to have someone that lives here.
The Premier says Koshy not only brings a national profile, but also the financial expertise to advise small business.
We, as a state, have punched above our weight in regards to tourism and hospitality, but there is a lot more growth to be had.
And from his national perspective, Kosh believes SA tourism's been on the right track, even with the Sam Smith concert debacle, the campaign labelling SA the most boring state ever, and a directive to interstate media to stop calling Adelaide the city of churches.
Do you know what? You've got to try everything. You've got to be innovative.
If he's competent and can do the job really well, all power to him, and sometimes an interstate perspective is actually helpful as well.
Now, we also asked our 9 News Adelaide social media followers in a Facebook poll whether South Australia's tourism boss should be required to live in the state. And out of the thousands of votes, the result was overwhelming. Kate, 95% of respondents voted yes.
Ollie, thank you. Well, rains have finally arrived across SA, bringing a long-awaited soaking. And Jessica Braithwaite, it's a welcome sight both in the city and, of course, out on the land too.
Oh, absolutely, Kate. It has been a long time coming, and today the rains finally turned up, giving much of SA a good soaking. Now, of course, in the city, the rains came through, giving Adelaide residents a chance, after having seen next to no rain through pretty much all of May, a chance to get out the umbrellas and the boots again as we saw the rain come down. We managed almost 10 millimetres at West Terrace and even more through the hills, where many areas received 15 to 25 millimetres. And while it's no doubt welcome across city gardens and lawns, where we've really been crying out for it is on the land. This farmer in the Eyre Peninsula was happy to finally see some water in the rain gauge. Of course, many had already started dry seeding, so it's good to know that this should be just the beginning, with more rain due tomorrow. And of course, we're travelling through the mid-Murray this week, and I tell you, boy, were the locals happy on the land here to see that rain. The landscape had been very dry, so the sound of rain on the roof this morning was wonderful to wake up to. And of course, watching the rain falling on the beautiful Murray River has been an absolute delight. Now, it is not the last of it. We are preparing for more showers over the next 24 hours, so I've got those details coming up in the full forecast at 5 to 7.
Terrific. Thank you, Jessica. The father of a young boy who was attacked by a loose dog near a Western Suburbs park has told 9 News his son is too scared to return to the playground. An investigation is tonight underway as the search continues for the dog and its owner.
A 3-year-old boy, his face bloodied moments after being bitten by a dog while playing in a Western Suburbs park.
There's stitches and there's a bit of, I think, meat's missing as well, like a bit of skin's missing.
Today, in his father's arms, young Ismail is bandaged and scared to return to the Pennington Reserve playground.
Yeah, he's okay, obviously, as you can see, but he's got stitches inside his mouth and outside, basically, where the dog bottom teeth, I think, got underneath the lip as well.
He was playing with his older brother yesterday afternoon when the loose dog attacked. He was rushed to the Women's and Children's Hospital, where he stayed with his mother last night.
I'm okay about it, sort of thing. Not okay about it, basically, but I'm okay, but she's a bit stressed out and, yeah, she's feeling sick and tired.
This is the dog witnesses say bit Ismail. They snapped these photos as it walked away from the park.
If you've got a pet, you've got to take responsibility for it. Take ownership of its actions.
A spokesperson from the city of Charles Sturt says it has bylaws that requires dogs to be on leads within 5 metres of playgrounds, telling 9 News it's now launched an investigation into the attack. The dog responsible and its owner are yet to be found.
And the owner just, his dog attacks and leaves. That's another thing, like, I hope the cops do something about it, basically.
Young Ismail will be back in hospital for more treatment in 2 weeks. Gus McDonald, 9 News.
A knife-point robbery at a Torrensville hotel has sparked a major police response. Police dogs leading officers to a suspect allegedly hiding behind a car in a nearby resident's driveway. It's alleged the man had robbed the Hotel Royal on Henley Beach Road just after midnight.
Crime is ridiculously high in this area, but it also affects businesses around this area.
The 36-year-old man from Adelaide was charged with aggravated robbery. A knife was found where he was arrested.
A 35-year-old woman has been charged with arson, accused of setting a brush fence alight in Fullerton in the early hours of this morning. A woman in her 70s raised the alarm, evacuating residents from neighbouring homes on White Avenue as the flames spread.
People were running around screaming a little bit, trying to get their cars out, and it was really hot. It was quite intense and terrifying for everybody, really.
Police don't believe it was a random attack. The owner of a landscaping business at Richmond that will be acquired as part of the $15 billion North-South Corridor project has vented his frustration, saying he's now just got 90 days to leave, which could spell the end of his business.
As a small business, it's a pretty hard cost to wear. We've ridden out GFC, we've ridden out water restrictions, we've ridden out COVID, and the one thing now that we're sort of looking at not riding out is a government acquisition.
He claims he's been offered $1 million for the property, with a government spokesperson saying the valuation process is done independently and can be challenged.
The federal government is using drones to track convicted murderers that are free tonight in our communities as they wait for court approval to lock the foreign criminals back up. The embattled immigration minister vowing to cancel more visas, which is threatening a diplomatic rift with New Zealand.
Andrew Giles walking out of Parliament still a minister and on his way, he says, to cancel visas.
First job is making sure that the visas which need to be cancelled are cancelled.
Tonight, around 30 visas that were cancelled and then reapproved by the Administrative Appeals Tribunal are once again under review. The minister confirming he has re-cancelled 8.
These are cases that go to some serious offending, some really serious offending, that frankly where the decision of the tribunal does not meet my expectations.
The question tonight, who's to blame for them being free?
If you listen to this week, Prime Minister, it's everyone else's fault. It's the AAT, it's the department, it's the High Court.
Yes, there are institutions such as the AAT, the court system and other systems that's there, but the buck stops with the minister at the end of the day.
New Zealand pushed for the changes under Jacinda Ardern, with convicted criminals' connections to Australia given more relevance. That change is now gone.
Why did this weak and incompetent Prime Minister put his close and sycophantic relationship with Jacinda Ardern ahead of the safety of Australians?
All the anger's there in just one question. The anger, the abuse.
Today, Deputy New Zealand Prime Minister Winston Peters said we do not want to see deportation of people with little or no connection to New Zealand whose formative experiences were nearly all in Australia.
What we do is we determine our own policy. Our own policy according with our own interests.
Last year, Parliament rushed back to allow preventative detention orders to re-detain criminal migrants deemed a risk to the community. It's been 6 months and we're told the first 6 cases will soon go before the courts. In the meantime,
spot checks, random house checks, as well as the use of drones.
The day finishing with Attorney General Mark Dreyfus turning his back on Peter Dutton. The government tonight desperate to put the whole affair behind them. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
Adelaide Oval will soon be transformed into a sea of green and gold. In just over 24 hours, the Matildas will run out for their sold-out clash with China. And in a twist, the opposing coach has special ties with our Tillies.
The final trot at Hindmarsh before taking on China at Adelaide Oval. And our girls have their game faces on.
Every national team game, every time we put on the green and gold, it's definitely not a friendly match.
So no matter what we face tomorrow, we're going to be ready to play and we're going to adjust to what's out there.
The Tillies feeling settled after a 5-day-long training camp.
It's always a nice thing to come back here and play in front of a home crowd, so I'm excited for the games.
China's head coach, familiar with the surrounds, leading the Matildas to a win in their last Adelaide match in 2019.
Just shows you in the space of 5 years how that's grown, that you're selling out, the big stadiums.
But it was young soccer player Sophia Tambakis asking the tough questions.
Tony, for the lead up to Paris, have you thought of any formations yet?
How much should I reveal? Because that's a great question.
The sellout crowd here at Adelaide Oval shows how the Tillies have changed the game for women, proving to the young girls in the stands tomorrow night that they too can dream big.
there isn't an Australian that isn't completely besotted by the Tillies and what they're doing for football and women's sport.
That sentiment echoed by former Matilda Moya Dodd.
It's been an absolute explosion in interest in women's football in the last 5 years, partly due to the World Cup, but also because I think people have lost their blinkers about women's sport.
Moya played in the first ever FIFA Women's World Cup in 1988.
I think it was a real marker in history and I guess the beginning of the Matildas World Cup dream.
The team now gearing up to make their Olympic dreams, and it all starts here in Adelaide. Josephine Shannon, 9 News.
Well, more in sport coming up a little later with Tom Rehn, who's live at Adelaide Oval. And Rennie, it's a big test for Port Adelaide.
Isn't it just, Kate? They want to make a big statement against a top 8 side. They'll get their chance, and we've got the final word from the power camp shortly. But also ahead, the Crows keep it all in the family at the mid-season draft, while Josh Rochelli exclusively opens up about the stiff arm scene all around the state. Plus some high drama at Roland Garros with a second-round clash worthy of a final.
Thank you, Rennie. See you again soon. A huge haul of a dangerous drug.
Blown open by Australian Border Force. Next on Adelaide's 9 News, this clear liquid may seem unsuspicious, but has a very sinister use. We'll have the details soon.
China drops its beef with Australia over meat exports.
And he was once a graffiti artist. Now he's an Archibald Prize winner.
Four Jetstar cabin crew members have been taken to hospital after reporting an unusual smell on board. They're on board a flight from the Gold Coast to Cairns when they started feeling ill around 9:30 a.m. The aircraft landed normally and no passengers were affected. The driver of a bus involved in a horrifying crash in New South Wales' Hunter Valley has today formally pleaded guilty to 19 charges, including 10 counts of dangerous driving occasioning death. It comes after 59-year-old Brett Button struck a deal to have manslaughter charges dropped over last year's wedding crash that killed 10 people. Samantha Murphy's husband has today confirmed a phone found by police on the banks of a dam in Victoria belongs to his wife. It was located inside a wallet that held identification cards. Forensic investigators hope data from the device will possibly lead them to the Ballarat mother's body.
It's a dangerous drug spilling onto our streets that's increasingly being linked to sex assaults and overdoses. Police tonight, though, are fighting back, seizing more than 4,000 litres of the date rape substance, warning those who illegally import it could go to jail for life.
A package from China arrives at our borders and what looks like body oil hides a dangerous new drug, 1,4-butanidol, known on the streets as Bute, a clear, inconspicuous liquid police claim is being used by predators to drug and sexually assault women.
It's in nightclubs and where they've got drinks in their hands.
The industrial chemical used in the manufacturing of plastic is similar to GHB or liquid ecstasy. Once consumed, it slows down the victim's nervous system, making them vulnerable within minutes.
I think, to be honest, Australian women are a little tired of being told what to do in terms of being safe for themselves.
In March, the substance was declared a border-controlled drug, now carrying a maximum penalty of life in prison for illegally importing it.
This has resulted in multiple detections of 1,4-butanidol, otherwise known as Bute, in Sydney and across the country on an almost daily basis.
Over 4,000 litres has been seized, some disguised as hand sanitizer. This package was traced to businesses in Sydney's west, where more Bute bound for the streets was uncovered. The next part of this operation is catching the criminal syndicates responsible for the drug's importation, and AFP officials say they're closing in on their first arrests.
There's a number of investigations that are ongoing, and I'm hoping that I'll be standing up in front of you again in a couple of weeks with some of those results.
In Sydney, James Wilson, 9 News.
Australian beef farmers are celebrating tonight after China confirmed they're lifting suspensions on imports, effective immediately. It represents a further thawing in relations between Beijing and Canberra, with billions of dollars in trade restarting in the last 2 years.
This means jobs. This means economic growth. This means significant benefit for farmers.
While restrictions have been removed for coal, barley, wood and now beef, the government says they're still pushing to remove tariffs on rock lobster.
Health experts are tonight pleading with parents to get their children vaccinated against the flu as soon as possible. Authorities are seeing a 20% pre-winter surge in cases for those under the age of 15.
13-year-old Sandra has rolled up her sleeves to reduce the chance of catching the flu.
So I don't get sick and so I can take care of myself.
The teenager did not even flinch when having her shot at this busy hospital immunisation clinic.
Well done.
Influenza infections in children and teens under age 15 are up 20% compared to the same period last year. That's almost 21,000 lab-confirmed cases.
And that makes up about a third of the total number of cases across the country.
More than 90% of 5 to 15-year-olds are not yet vaccinated against the flu this year. Similarly, an estimated 86% of under 5-year-olds are not inoculated.
And the fact that we've got such low vaccination coverage rates is certainly a part of the problem.
Dr Anthea Rhodes says new polling shows confusion exists over vaccine guidelines.
Parents sometimes are not aware that they need to get the vaccine every year for their children because the flu virus changes each year.
Paediatricians want to remind families that influenza in children can be really serious. In fact, it's the leading cause of preventable hospitalisations in under 5-year-olds.
Some of the complications we see, particularly in young children, include pneumonia, infections of the heart, the brain.
And while needles can sting, some post-immunisation fun makes it all worthwhile. Emily Rice, 9 News.
Greeted with a smile and a handshake, incoming Governor-General Sam Mostyn has met with King Charles at Buckingham Palace. The former Republican is in London ahead of officially taking up the position as our 28th Governor-General on Saturday.
A street artist has taken out the 2024 Archibald Packing Room Prize. Matt Adelaide won the prestigious award for his portrait of First Nations rapper and ARIA winner Baker Boy. The Packing Room Prize is judged by art gallery staff ahead of the announcement of the official Archibald Prize winner. Well, our 9 News road trip is meandering along the Mid-Murray this week, hoping to inspire your next holiday.
And Jessica Braithwaite, today was proof that the region is beautiful in any weather.
It absolutely is proof, Kate. We saw the rains arrive here in the Mid-Murray too, and it's been a really beautiful, peaceful day, just watching the rain coming down and really rejuvenating the landscape here. Now, we, of course, are travelling through the Mid-Murray to throw the spotlight on some of the awesome holiday activities that you can do here. And how's this for a great way to start the day? A bush tucker breakfast and billy brewed tea underneath the Big Bend cliffs and alongside the early morning wetlands wildlife. The local flavours on offer are a real treat in what must be one of the state's most picturesque brekkie locations.
This morning we've just done a bush breakfast for the Murray Princess passengers. We do it for the houseboat trade as well. So anyone that's floating past, we give them a little bit of a country experience. You guys are seeing the mess behind us. So we've just had 20 people come through. So just a cracking way to start a morning.
In addition to those breakfasts, Big Bend by Night also runs shearing show tours where you can get a feel for life on the lands out here. It's a whole family affair with the grandkids on hand to show us their impressive whip cracking skills. And I better get cracking too because I've got another forecast coming up soon with lots more rain in store. I'll have those details very soon.
We'll see you then. Thank you, Jessica. Well, in the news ahead, the world has watched on with great interest.
And now the jury has retired to reach a verdict. Will former US President Donald Trump soon be convicted a criminal? The details from New York shortly.
Also, temperatures nearing 53 degrees. India swelters through a record heatwave.
And lava sent spewing 50 metres into the air and as an Icelandic volcano erupts yet again.
Well, Donald Trump's fate is now in the hands of 12 New Yorkers.
The jury in his hush money trial was handed the case today as the former president compared himself to a well-known saint.
As America awaits a verdict, Donald Trump turned to the holy.
Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged.
Throughout the 4.5 weeks of this historic trial, the former president and his team have called it a witch hunt and a scam.
This is exactly a Biden show because he's got to distract the American people.
The case now in the hands of 12 New Yorkers, 7 men and 5 women, kept anonymous for their own protection. Judge Juan Machan instructing that they must reach a unanimous decision. Jurors were told to avoid speculation about potential sentencing or punishment. 3.5 hours into deliberations, the jury sent a note asking to be read back testimony from AMI boss David Pecker and Trump's former fixer Michael Cohen. Then a request to rehear the judge's instructions.
The confusion is nobody knows what the crime is because there's no crime.
The jury will return tomorrow to rehear the evidence and instructions. During deliberations, both parties are required to remain inside the courthouse no matter how long it takes.
Despite testimony from 22 witnesses, polls show little impact on the American public.
Look at where we are now, 46%.
But the First Lady believes the tide will turn.
I believe that Americans are going to choose good over evil.
In New York, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Polls have closed for South Africa's most critical election since the end of apartheid 30 years ago. The African National Congress, formerly led by Nelson Mandela, could lose its parliamentary majority for the first time, accused of corruption. The results are expected to be announced on Sunday. At least 28 people have been killed and 20 others injured after a bus fell from a highway into a rocky ravine in southwest Pakistan. The cause of the crash is not yet known. India's capital, New Delhi, is sweltering through a heatwave. Temperatures soaring to 52.3 degrees Celsius. The severe heat is affecting the northwest, central and eastern areas of the country. World #1 golfer Scotty Scheffler has had his criminal charges against him dropped over a traffic incident at the PGA Championship in the US. Prosecutors said the evidence didn't stack up, leaving his lawyer teeing off at police.
They were the pictures that stunned the golf world.
Step back.
Scotty Scheffler in handcuffs. New vision emerging of him in the back of a police car.
I did get a little bit impatient because I'm quite late for my tee time.
He claimed the officer struck him.
It seemed to be a little bit over-aggressive because the entrance was open.
The reigning Masters champion went to jail and was charged. 12 days later, those charges have been dropped.
Based upon the totality of the evidence, my office cannot move forward in the prosecution.
Police said Scheffler ignored a command to stop near the scene of a fatal collision on his way to the PGA Championship at Valhalla and accused him of assault by dragging a police officer along the ground.
That did not happen.
A review found the officer who tried to stop him broke protocol by not turning on his body camera. Now police have been accused of trying to put words into Scheffler's mouth.
They are not trying to get to what happened. They are trying to get you to incriminate yourself.
In a statement, the world #1 said this was a severe miscommunication in a chaotic situation. Scotty Scheffler was due to be arraigned on the charges next week on the same day. His lawyer says they were going to start civil action against Louisville police. Now, neither will happen. Scotty Scheffler will be back competing next week in the United States. Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has caught up with his Ukrainian counterpart over the phone. Volodymyr Zelensky expressing his gratitude for Australia's unwavering support in the war against Russia. Our Prime Minister saying Australia will continue backing Ukraine for as long as it takes. Fighting in Gaza will likely continue for at least another 7 months, according to Israel's National Security Advisor. It comes as the IDF deepens its ground assault into Rafah, claiming it has seized control of a strategic corridor along the border with Egypt. The moment a school bus careers off the road and crashes in the US state of South Carolina has been caught on camera. The bus with 2 students on board took a corner too fast and slammed into a motorhome on the side of the road. No one was injured. The driver has been fined.
Tourist attractions and a town have been evacuated with a volcano in Iceland erupting for the 5th time since December.
Extraordinary video shows the extent of the eruption with lava flowing toward a town.
Close up, it's mesmerising as crimson-red streams of lava spew into the air. A wider look reveals the scale of the eruption and the emergency it's caused. This is the moment the volcano in Iceland's Reykjanes Peninsula started erupting for the 5th time since December. Within seconds, lava and smoke was pouring out. The chasm is now 2.5 kilometres long and growing. The nearby Blue Lagoon geothermal spa, a major tourist attraction, was evacuated. Most of the residents in the town of Grindavik left in November before the series of eruptions, but some remain and have been told to get out. The local mayor reporting concerns about the amount of lava flowing toward the town. So far, a wall built to protect it is holding. This is the 8th eruption in the Reykjanes Peninsula since 2021. Many scientists believe the region is now in a new volcanic era that could last decades, possibly centuries. In London, Jessica Millward, 9 News.
Make $1,000 a week.
And all you need is your car. When 9 News returns, the service allowing you to rent out your vehicle for others to use when you're not. The details shortly.
Scam alert, the sharp rise in hoaxed text messages impersonating Australia Post.
And saving a missing pup. Next, the incredible rescue of a dog called Happy.
Alarming new research has found more than 70% of Australians are receiving package delivery scam texts or emails every week. Commissioned by Australia Post, it shows more than half of people surveyed believed a fake delivery message was legitimate.
A significant number of those have lost billions and billions of dollars over recent times. What's concerning is the sophistication of the scammers.
Australia Post says it never calls, texts or emails asking for personal or financial information.
Described as Airbnb for cars, an online platform is allowing Aussies to unlock a side hustle that's as simple as handing over the keys to your ride. Owners earning thousands of dollars by cashing in on their vehicles and renting them to holidaymakers when not in use.
Stuart Oliver's Nissan is much more than a way to get from A to B. It's now part of a growing business.
One car was making, say, $250, $300 a week. So I thought to myself, right, let's put another one on there, and then it gets to about 400, 500.
2 years ago, the painter-decorator turned to Turo, the world's largest car-sharing marketplace, after a road accident left him unable to work and his vehicle sitting idle in his driveway.
You just take a few pictures, put the rego in, follow the prompts. It's pretty easy. It's just a case of downloading the app and following the instructions.
Now the Gold Coast resident lists 4 vehicles on the platform, which allows owners or hosts to rent out their wheels. It's as simple as setting a price, then handing over the keys to your Turo guest.
Then we have a lot of hosts who treat it like a small business. They've got 3 to 9 or 10 cars, and it's really about having maybe a secondary income.
There are now 360,000 vehicles listed globally, and Turo claims Australian hosts earn, on average, almost $13,000 per car per year. The company takes a cut of the listed price from 10 to 35%, depending on the level of protection owners choose for damage suffered during a rental.
We've also got roadside assistance for guests and hosts.
Turo's proving most popular with holidaymakers. 2/3 of guests are out-of-towners. And while prices vary, it's the platform's convenience that's winning them over. Perhaps the biggest incentive for customers is many hosts offer delivery to hotels, airports and other personalised locations, so time isn't wasted picking up a rental car. Thank you.
You get in and get out, and that's what they love about it.
Abby Guerin, 9 News.
A frantic search for a family's dog has led to an unexpected discovery. Happy, the Jack Russell, found clinging to a ladder in an underground bunker after missing for nearly 3 days. The adventurous pooch vanished from his family's home south of Brisbane on Sunday. Happy suffered hypothermia and a minor leg injury and is now even happier to be reunited with his family.
Well, sport is coming up next with Tom Rehn, who's live at Adelaide Oval, and Rennie the Power have a big scalp in their sights.
They want to prove their premiership credentials, don't they, Kate, with a big win over the Blues. And after the break, we've got the latest from the Power camp, but also ahead. Both local sides turn to the sample to bolster their lists at the mid-season draft, while Josh Rochelli believes the Crows are ready to find their mojo at the MCG. Plus, why it hasn't all been fun and games for the Matildas coach in Adelaide.
Intuitive, capable, and above all,
intelligent. The Ford Escape is fearlessly designed and makes every day effortless.
Hello again from Adelaide Oval, where more than 40,000 Power fans are braving the elements tonight in the hope of seeing a big win over Carlton. Now, the Power have never lost against the Blues at this ground, but will need their midfield to step up in the absence of injured skipper Connor Rosie. Fortunately, the return of ruckman Ivan Soldo after 4 games on the sidelines has come at just the right time.
His leadership amongst our midfield group is important. He's got good experience, he's been around for a while, and we think that that's important to the team, and his aggression and the way that he plays, he brings a lot, so it's good to have him back.
Win tonight and the Power would have solidified a spot in the top 4, but a loss would push them back to the chasing pack heading into their bye. There are no late changes, but Ken Hinkley has opted for a surprise sub with Jeremy Finlayson to start proceedings wearing the vest. Well, meantime, the Crows, they're unchanged for their clash against Hawthorn on Saturday at the MCG, and Josh Rochelle says he's looking for his first ever win at the home of football this weekend, and he's confident they can do it, and that the side in the process can snap a 9-game losing streak at the ground when they face the Hawks. He's also hoping to get back on the highlight reel after the stiff arm seen all around the state.
Back in the land of the living after Josh Rochelle was buried by Harley Rehn.
Runs in and tries the push off. Don't argue on Rochelle. Amazing from the kid.
Yeah, he's a tough little bugger, Harley. I knew it was coming out, and the first thing I thought about was everything that was going to go on social media.
The viral moment coming a week after he detailed a strategy to avoid that specific situation.
My main thing would be not to press him if he's sticking out that stiff arm. You don't want to be on another highlight reel like a few of the boys in the past. He laughed it off. I also had Tom Barras sit on my head as well, so there's a couple of things that went on in that game which wasn't too good.
And while he's copped a bit of stick from his teammates, his housemate has had to hold his tongue.
Jake didn't give me too much, especially because he got a cracking chase down from Campbell Chesser.
One too many. Great hump down chase by Chesser.
Between the comical, it was otherwise clinical against the Eagles. Rochelle relishing more time in the midfield with Isaac Rankin sidelined.
It was good to get some opportunities in there, had a few centre bounces and helped me roll forward and kick a couple of goals on the end of a few, so it was nice. Could have been a bit of a bigger day for me.
He's hoping that'll be the case on Saturday against an informed Hawthorn at the MCG.
Especially the last month or two, they've really picked up, especially in that clearance of space. They've got some great mids in Newcomb and Warple, and they're really starting to get their game plan together, and you can tell they've taken it against the best teams.
Will Crouch, 9 News.
All right, let's stick with the Crows, and it's set to be a very special weekend for one family in particular after the club selected 200-centimetre ruck forward Toby Murray. That was at the mid-season draft. Toby is the brother of defender Nick Murray, with the pair to suit up together in the Sandful on Saturday.
I don't think we've played together since we were 12 or 13 years old, so to play together in a league like this, I suppose on this occasion, it'll be very special and something the family will look at very proudly.
Yeah, great stuff. A moment of pride too at Alberton, with defender Logan Evans picked up by the Power after being overlooked at last year's national draft.
I'm pretty stoked, over the moon. It was good to have all my mates and family there. It was not really a surprise, but just so grateful for the opportunity and just relief to hear my name called out.
Just jumped the gun a fraction there. He's already impressed for Port in the Sandful, averaging 15 disposals from 4 games this season. OK, elsewhere, Essendon appears to have avoided mass changes at selection, despite a virus sweeping through the club. The Bombers taking extra precautions throughout the week as they prepare to continue their dominance over the Suns.
He might be the only person in Australia, but as a virus swept through the Bombers this week, Brad Scott was grateful for the COVID years.
Enacting the protocols is pretty quick and pretty swift, and touch wood, we've avoided catastrophe.
Staff had little contact with the players through the week, ensuring a relatively clean bill of health. It comes as the Bombers prepare for Gold Coast, a side they haven't lost to in 8 years.
It's going to be a really big challenge for us, but for us we feel like every week's like that.
Max Gawn trained fully and has overcome a calf corky, ready to face Fremantle's Jackson Darcy ruck duo, while Stephen May still has a smile on his face after kicking his first goal in 4 years. His celebration, a tribute to his mum, who had flown from the Gold Coast for the game.
The morning of the game he said to her, "I'm going to kick a goal today for you."
And you know, when he got the 50-metre penalty, he was talking about how he was that nervous about kicking the goal because he's already worked out his celebration.
The D's with the spring in their step, unlike the Saints, who have just one win from their past 7 games. Low on confidence, but Ross says that's just a mindset.
There's been plenty of Olympic swimmers get on the blocks, not confident they're going to win gold, but all they do is get into relentless action. And their prep's been solid.
Xander Maguire, 9 News.
Alistair Clarkson has avoided suspension over his verbal outburst during North Melbourne's loss to the Power last weekend. The league launched an investigation but was unable to determine if his poor language was directed towards match officials. Clarkson has expressed his remorse and is free to coach when the Roos resume after the bye. Well, this time tomorrow night, Matilda Mania will reach fever pitch here in Adelaide Oval when Australia hosts China at the Oval behind me. While the excitement's certainly building all week, it hasn't been as fun for coach Tony Gustafsson, who has the unenviable task of selecting a final team to head to the Olympics.
I'm making these tough decisions as a head coach. Is, to be honest, the worst part of being a head coach is that you have to tell someone at the end of this week that you're not going to the Olympics.
Both sides undergoing one final training session at Cooper's Stadium before tomorrow's blockbuster. And Iga Swiatek and Naomi Osaka have played out a dramatic second-round match at the French Open. At a set-all, Osaka led the defending champion 3-love and at one stage had a match point before Swiatek fought back. What a cracker. On the men's side of things, Carlos Alcaraz and Stefanos Tsitsipas also advanced through the second round. That's it from down here. Go the Power. We'll have all the fallout tomorrow. Brenton.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Rennie. Have a great night. We'll take a look at finance now. And Aussie shares fell for a third straight session today, with the appetite to take a risk still faltering. Stephanie Anderson explains.
The sell-off on the Australian market continued today, the ASX 200 dropping another 0.5% as inflation concerns weighed on investors. Miners and energy stocks led the falls, BHP walking away from its $74 billion bid to take over Anglo American. Fortescue Metals also finished in the red, along with Santos and Origin. Woolworths lost ground while Coles closed higher. Telstra ended the day flat. And the Aussie dollar delivered mixed results against the majors. It's buying around 65 US cents and 51 British pence.
Thank you so much, Steph. Well, some much-needed rain has finally arrived and there's more to come.
Jessica has the forecast live next. First, though, here's a look at tomorrow's speed cameras.
Wake up and laugh with Adelaide's #1 breakfast show. Rudits and Lows tomorrow on 104.7 Triple M.
For the latest Adelaide news and traffic.
Switch on a Daikin Alira X split system with advanced streamer technology to remove more than 99% of harmful indoor air pollutants and surround yourself with cleaner air this summer. Daikin, perfecting the air.
Hello. Well, talk about an incredible way to wrap up a day here on the Mid-Murray. The clouds have cleared after all of that beautiful, refreshing rain today. Now we have clear skies, the stars are out, the campfires going, and it's just an absolutely wonderful way to finish a day travelling through the Mid-Murray. Of course, the rains have been around and they've been lovely as well. Back in the city, we had around 10 millimetres in the gauge at West Terrace. The temperature was a really weird one. We had our top of 19 degrees really early in the morning, and then a couple of hours later, once the rains arrived, the temperature had dropped to 14 degrees, so that was our low. Around the suburbs, a lot of areas on the plains did land in that kind of 5 to 10 millimetre mark in terms of those rain totals, and then we had more than that through the hills, a good 15 to 25 millimetres for many hills areas. And those temperatures, both the maximum and the minimum happening really early in the morning. So through the north, the big winners were around the middle of the Eyre Peninsula, with 10 millimetres, and the same over at Lee Creek. And then in the south, there's been 10 millimetres on Kangaroo Island and also at Mount Gambier. There were some strong wind gusts in there too, especially at Cape Willoughby and Kaipo. On the charts, we can see the front that brought this first round of rain moving off towards the eastern states. Excuse me. And now we have a whole bunch of severe weather warnings in place throughout Victoria, New South Wales and Tassie. The concern is for both damaging winds and also heavy rainfall, particularly in regional areas. Back to South Australia, we have another round of rain on the way. It won't stretch quite as far north for many areas, but there is another 10 millimetres or so up for grabs. The south is looking pretty wet down from Kingscote to Mount Gambier, but it could start to peter out a little bit, only around 3 millimetres there. We have gale force wind warnings for central and southern coastlines. And then on metro waters, we're looking at winds to around 30 knots south of Port Noarlunga. Temperature-wise, just 14 degrees at Mount Barker, 16 at Noarlunga, 17 degrees in the city with more showers in store. It will be a wet day, but then we are drying out for the weekend with tops of 17 degrees on Saturday and Sunday, and we'll be welcoming Chelsea Carey to our road trip from tomorrow.
So well done, Jessica. Thanks so much for that forecast, and stay warm too. That's the latest from the 9 News team for this Thursday. Thanks for joining us.
A current affair is up next, and we'll bring you further news updates later this evening. Have a great night.
Good night.